Admiral Keth Vorak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Behind him stretched the pride of the Zeridian Empire, 300 war vessels carrying enough firepower to crack a moon in half. This would be conquest number 848 for the Empire, and Vorak expected it to be just as simple as all the others. The Zeridians had perfected the art of conquest over thousands of years. The process never changed. First, they would broadcast their surrender demand. The local species would either submit immediately or try to fight. If they fought, the Zeridians would demonstrate their superior weapons. After seeing a few of their cities turn to glass, even the most stubborn species would surrender. Then came the standard occupation, resource extraction, and cultural integration into the empire. Vorak had personally overseen 63 successful conquests. He knew exactly how this would go. Communications Officer Zeth, open a channel to the planet, Vorak commanded. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never failed in battle. Channel open, Admiral, came the reply. Vorak straightened his uniform and activated the recording system. The message would be broadcast across all frequencies on the planet below. Attention, inhabitants of the third planet. I am Admiral Keth Vorak of the Zeridian Empire. Your world is now claimed by the Empire. You have one standard day to surrender unconditionally. Resistance is futile. Recorded. Comply, and your species will be treated with the dignity afforded to all Empire citizens. Refuse, and face the consequences. This is your only warning. The message transmitted across space toward the blue planet. Vorak settled back in his command chair and waited for the response. Some species begged, others threatened. A few remained silent until the first demonstration of Zeridian firepower convinced them to reconsider, but they all eventually surrendered. 2 hours later, the response came back. Communications. Officer Zeth looked puzzled as he turned toward the Admiral. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the planet. It appears to be an invitation? Vorak frowned. An invitation to surrender? An invitation? To surrender? No, sir. An invitation to, well, to a party. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human face. The being appeared to be middle-aged, with dark hair and kind eyes. It spoke in accented but clear galactic standard. Greetings, Admiral Vorak and the crew of the Zeridian Empire. I am Ambassador Minjun Park, representing the people of Earth. We are absolutely delighted to meet you. This is such an exciting day for our species. We have been hoping to make contact with other civilizations for so long. Vorak stared at the screen. This was not following the standard first contact protocol. The human continued. We would love to invite you and your fleet to a first contact celebration. We have prepared food, music, and cultural presentations. Our scientists have so many questions about your technology and culture. Our artists have created welcome gifts for your crew. We have translators standing by to help with communication. When would be convenient for you to visit? The bridge fell silent. Vorak had conquered species across half the galaxy, but none had ever invited him to a party. Sir, whispered his aide, how should we respond? Before Vorak could answer, more transmissions began arriving from the planet. The communications board lit up with dozens of incoming messages. Admiral Vorak, this is Chef Sarah Martinez from Earth's Culinary Exchange Program. We have prepared traditional foods from every human culture for your crew to try. Do any of your people have food allergies we should know about? Greetings, Zeridian friends. This is Dr. James Chen, Director of the Global Science Council. We would love to share our research on quantum physics and stellar engineering. We understand you traveled between star systems, which is amazing. How does your faster-than-light drive work? Hello, space friends. This is Maria Santos from the Children's Welcome Committee. Kids from all over Earth have made drawings and gifts for your crew. They are so excited to meet aliens. Vorak's tactical officer spoke up nervously. Admiral, we are detecting multiple ships approaching from the planet. Battle formation. Vorak ordered immediately. Sir, the ships appear to be cargo vessels. They are broadcasting identification signals. One calls itself Welcome Wagon. Another is named Friendship Express. They do not appear to be armed. On the main screen, a new human face appeared. This one belonged to a woman with short brown hair and a confident smile. Admiral Vorak, I am Commander Zara Quinn, coordinating the Earth Welcome Fleet. We are bringing gifts, food, and entertainment for your crew. We have musicians, chefs, diplomats, and scientists aboard. Where would you like us to dock for the celebration? Vorak felt his carefully planned conquest slipping away from him. This is not how first contact is supposed to work, he muttered. His communications officer looked up. Admiral, I am receiving a personal message for you. From who? A human child named Lucy Kim. She drew a picture of your flagship and wants to know if you like purple. Because she used purple crayon for your ship. Vorak stared at the drawing that appeared on his secondary screen. It showed his massive warship surrounded by little hearts and smiley faces. At the bottom, written in crayon, were the words, Welcome to Earth, Admiral Vorak. Sir, his weapons officer reported, the approaching human vessels are playing music. It appears to be some kind of welcome song. Through the bridge, speakers came the sound of dozens of human voices singing together in harmony. Vorak did not understand the words, but the melody was warm and joyful. His aide approached cautiously. Admiral, what are your orders? Vorak looked around his bridge. His officers were all watching him, waiting for commands. Behind them, on every screen, human faces smiled and waved. The cargo ships approaching his fleet were decorated with colorful banners and lights. More messages kept arriving, each one more enthusiastic than the last. Sir, the tactical officer said quietly, should we power weapons? Vorak thought about the standard conquest protocol. He thought about the Empire's perfect record of successful invasions. He thought about his duty as a Zeridian admiral. Then he looked at the drawing made by Lucy Kim, with her purple crayon spaceship and her little hearts. Stand down, weapons, he said finally. And prepare to receive the human delegation. The bridge crew exchanged glances, but they followed orders. As the first human ships docked with his flagship, Vorak wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his military career. Little did he know that the real mistake would be trying to conquer a species that fought back with friendship, curiosity, and an endless supply of homemade cookies. The conquest of Earth was about to become the most embarrassing military failure in Zeridian history, and it had not even officially begun yet. 3 hours after the first human ships docked with his flagship, Admiral Vorak found himself in the most bizarre situation of his military career. His bridge had been transformed into something resembling a cultural festival. Human diplomats chatted with his officers while sharing strange brown liquid they called coffee. Musicians played instruments in the corner. Children drew pictures of his crew members. Vorak tried to maintain his dignity as Ambassador Min Jun Park offered him a small round object covered in colorful sprinkles. It is called a donut, Admiral, Park explained with genuine enthusiasm. Sarah made them fresh this morning. She is our best baker. Vorak accepted the donut cautiously. As a Zeridian warrior, he had eaten ration bars and battle supplements for most of his life. The sweet, soft texture was completely foreign to him. It was also, he had to admit, rather pleasant. Admiral, his aide whispered urgently, we need to regain control of this situation. Vorak nodded. He had allowed the humans to board as a tactical assessment. Now it was time to show them the reality of Zeridian military power. Perhaps a demonstration would bring them to their senses. Ambassador Park, Vorak said, standing up straight and using his most commanding voice. I must show you something that will help you understand your position. Park looked interested. Of course. We love learning new things. Vorak led the human delegation to his bridge's main viewing window. In the distance, a large asteroid tumbled slowly through space. It was perfect for his purposes. "Observe carefully," Vorak announced. "This will demonstrate the futility of resistance against the Zeridian Empire." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target the asteroid. Full power plasma cannon discharge." The weapons officer hesitated. "Sir, we have civilians on the bridge." "Sir, they need to see this," Vorak replied firmly. The flagship's main cannon charged with a deep humming sound. Energy gathered at the weapon's tip, glowing brighter and brighter, until it was almost too bright to look at directly. Then, with a flash that lit up the darkness of space, a beam of pure destructive force lanced out toward the asteroid. The impact was spectacular. The asteroid, which had been roughly the size of a small mountain, simply ceased to exist. In its place was a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated gas and mineral particles. Vorak turned to face the humans, expecting to see fear, shock, or at least some recognition of their desperate situation. Instead, he found them applauding enthusiastically. "Magnificent!" exclaimed Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's chief physicist. "The energy efficiency is incredible. How do you achieve such precise particle acceleration?" "The targeting system must be incredibly advanced," added another scientist. "Can you show us how it calculates for gravitational drift and quantum uncertainty?" Ambassador Park was beaming. "This is wonderful. The scientific applications for mining and space construction must be amazing. Do you use this technology for peaceful purposes as well?" Vorak felt his confidence beginning to crack. "You do not understand. This weapon could destroy your cities. Your entire civilization." Dr. Chen nodded eagerly. "Oh yes. We figured that out from the energy output calculations. But the peaceful applications are so exciting. This could revolutionize asteroid mining. We could clear dangerous space debris. We could even use controlled blasts to help with terraforming projects." "Terraforming?" Vorak asked, despite himself. "Making planets suitable for life," Park explained. "We have been working on plans for Mars, but the atmosphere is tricky. Your technology could help us speed up the process significantly." A young human engineer stepped forward. "Admiral, I have been studying your ship's hull composition. The metal alloy is fascinating. It seems to distribute energy impacts across the entire surface. Did you develop this for defense, or does it have other applications?" Vorak found himself answering before he could stop himself. "It was originally developed for deep space exploration. The galaxy contains many energy phenomena that can damage ships." "Brilliant," the engineer exclaimed. "We have been struggling with radiation shielding for our Mars mission. Could you help us understand the principles behind your alloy?" Before Vorak could respond, his communications officer approached nervously. "Admiral, we are receiving more transmissions from the planet." "What kind of transmissions?" "Academic institutions, sir. They want to invite our scientists to give lectures. Something called universities. Also, several groups called museums want to display models of our ships. And..." The officer paused, looking embarrassed. "Several humans want to know if we would be interested in cultural exchange programs." "Cultural exchange?" Ambassador Park brightened. "Oh yes. We could send human students to learn about Zeridian culture, and your people could come to Earth to study with us. Think of what we could learn from each other." Dr. Chen was practically bouncing with excitement. "Admiral, could we possibly get samples of that plasma residue from your demonstration? For purely scientific research." "Of course. We want to understand the exotic matter states you created." Vorak looked around his bridge. His weapons officer was explaining the technical details of Zeridian targeting systems to a group of fascinated human engineers. His navigation officer was showing star charts to human astronomers, who were pointing out interesting phenomena they had observed from Earth. His communications officer was helping a human linguist understand Zeridian grammar. In the corner, A human musician was teaching Ziridian folk songs to several of his junior officers, who were attempting to hum along. "Admiral," his aide whispered urgently. "High Command is requesting a status report on the conquest." Vorak felt a growing sense of panic. How could he explain this situation to his superiors? How could he tell them that instead of terrorizing the local population, his demonstration of military might had accidentally started a scientific conference? Ambassador Park approached him again. "Admiral, we have prepared a formal response to your earlier message." Finally, Vorak thought. The surrender document. Park handed him a beautifully decorated scroll. Vorak unrolled it carefully and began to read. It was not a surrender document. It was an invitation to establish formal diplomatic relations between Earth and the Ziridian Empire. It included proposals for scientific collaboration, cultural exchange, trade agreements, and something called a sister planet program. At the bottom were thousands of signatures from humans all over their world, welcoming the Ziridians to their corner of the galaxy. "We are so excited to be your neighbors," Park said warmly. "The universe is vast and lonely. It is wonderful to find friends among the stars." Vorak stared at the document. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans were not surrendering. They were not even really resisting. They were trying to adopt his entire fleet. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "the human engineers have some suggestions for improving our plasma cannon efficiency. They think they can increase the power output by 12% while reducing energy consumption." "Admiral," added his communications officer, "the human children have sent more drawings. Also, something called recipes. They want to teach our cooks how to make pizza." Vorak closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had come to Earth to add another conquest to the Empire's proud record. Instead, he was rapidly losing control of his own fleet to the most aggressively friendly species he had ever encountered. "Ambassador Park," he said carefully, "what exactly do you want from us?" Park smiled. "Just to be friends, Admiral. To learn from each other and explore the galaxy together. Is that not what all civilized beings want?" Vorak had no answer for that. In his experience, civilized beings wanted territory, resources, and power. The concept of wanting friendship from a superior military force was completely outside his understanding. He looked around his bridge again. His officers seemed happier than he had seen them in years. The humans were treating them like honored guests instead of conquering invaders. For the first time in his career, Admiral Keth Vorak began to wonder if there might be something fundamentally wrong with the Ziridian approach to meeting new species. Admiral Vorak paced his private quarters, his mind racing with frustration and confusion. 3 days had passed since the humans had boarded his ships, and his carefully planned conquest had become something else entirely. His officers were attending human cooking classes. His engineers were collaborating on joint research projects. His communications staff had started learning human languages for fun. The door chimed, and his aide entered. "Admiral, High Command is requesting an immediate status report. They want to know why the conquest is taking so long." Vorak's stomach tightened. How could he explain that instead of crushing human resistance, he was dealing with the most persistent hospitality campaign in galactic history? "Tell them we are conducting advanced reconnaissance," he said finally. "We need more time to properly assess the situation." His aide nodded and left. Vorak knew this excuse would not satisfy High Command much longer. He needed a new strategy. Something that would finally make these impossibly cheerful humans understand their position. An idea formed in his mind. Economic warfare. The humans seemed impressed by Ziridian technology. What if he flooded their planet with advanced equipment, making them completely dependent on the Empire? Then, when they could not function without Ziridian support, he could demand their surrender in exchange for continued access to the technology. It was perfect. Simple, effective, and completely within standard military doctrine. Vorak called for Ambassador Park and Dr. Chen to meet him in the main conference room. When they arrived, both humans greeted him with warm smiles and offers of fresh coffee. Ambassador, Doctor, Vorak began formally, the Ziridian Empire has decided to make a generous offer to your people. Park leaned forward with interest. We are honored to hear it, Admiral. We will provide your world with advanced Ziridian technology, medical equipment that can cure diseases you consider incurable, computers that can process information 1,000 times faster than your current machines, transportation systems that can move people across your planet in minutes instead of hours. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. Admiral, that is incredibly generous. What would you want in return? This was the crucial moment. Vorak smiled confidently. Nothing at all. Consider it a gift of friendship from the Ziridian Empire. Park and Chen exchanged glances, and Vorak felt a moment of satisfaction. Finally, he had managed to surprise them. Admiral, Park said carefully, this is a wonderful offer, but we must ask why you would give us such valuable technology without asking for anything in return. The Ziridian Empire is wealthy beyond imagination, Vorak replied smoothly. We wish to share our prosperity with our new friends. What he did not say was that once Earth's entire infrastructure depended on Ziridian technology, he would cut off all support unless they surrendered. It was a classic dependency trap, used successfully on dozens of worlds. Dr. Chen stood up excitedly. This is amazing. Our medical researchers will be so grateful, and our engineers will love studying your computer systems. When can we start the technology transfer? Within hours, Ziridian cargo ships were shuttling between the fleet and Earth's surface, delivering advanced equipment to hospitals, universities, and research centers across the planet. Vorak monitored the process carefully, waiting for the right moment to spring his trap. Days passed. Earth's communication networks upgraded to Ziridian standards. Their medical facilities began using advanced healing chambers. Their transportation systems incorporated Ziridian efficiency protocols. Then the reports started coming back from his technical teams, and Vorak realized something had gone terribly wrong. Admiral, his chief engineer reported, looking bewildered. The humans have been modifying our equipment. Modifying it how? They added safety protocols we never thought of. They improved the user interfaces to make them more intuitive. They integrated our medical scanners with their existing systems in ways that actually make both technologies work better. Vorak frowned. Are they trying to reverse engineer our technology? No, sir. They are making it better. The modified healing chambers are now 37% more effective than our original design. Their improvements to our computer systems have increased processing speed by 42%. That is impossible. That is what I thought, sir. But I have run the tests myself. The humans seem to approach technology differently than we do. They ask questions like, how can we make this safer? And how can we make this easier to use? We never considered such questions important. Vorak felt his carefully laid plan beginning to crumble. What else? The humans are sharing all their improvements with us freely, sir. They have sent complete technical specifications for every modification they have made. They say they want to help us improve our own equipment. This was not how dependency warfare was supposed to work. More reports followed throughout the day. Human doctors were teaching Ziridian medics new treatment techniques. Human engineers were collaborating with Ziridian technicians to solve problems neither group could handle alone. Human artists were creating cultural works inspired by Ziridian designs, and somehow making them more beautiful than the originals. The final blow came when his communications officer approached him with a message from High Command. Admiral, the Empire's Ministry of Technology wants to know who developed these equipment improvements. They want to implement them fleet-wide immediately. Vorak stared at the message in his hands. The improvements came from Earth? Yes, sir. The humans sent copies of all their modifications directly to Ziridian research facilities. They said they wanted to help improve life for all Ziridian citizens. They just gave away their improvements? For free? They seemed confused when we asked about payment, sir. They said knowledge should be shared for the benefit of everyone. Vorak sat down heavily in his command chair. His dependency trap had backfired completely. Instead of making humans dependent on Ziridian technology, he had somehow made the entire Ziridian Empire dependent on human improvements to their own equipment. His aide approached nervously. Sir, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth's Global Council. What do they want now? The main screen activated, showing a familiar face. Ambassador Park appeared. But he looked concerned, for the first time since the humans had arrived. Admiral Vorak, we have been monitoring your people's reactions to our technology improvements. We noticed that many Ziridian citizens seem surprised by the safety features and user-friendly interfaces we added. This makes us wonder if your original equipment might be unnecessarily dangerous or difficult to use. Park paused, looking genuinely worried. Admiral, are your people okay? Is your technology causing problems we could help you solve? We have medical teams and engineers standing by if you need assistance. Vorak stared at the screen in disbelief. The humans were offering to help fix problems in Ziridian society. They had turned his economic warfare into a humanitarian aid mission. Also, Park continued, our cultural experts have been studying Ziridian art and music. We think your people might be experiencing some kind of cultural depression. Your artistic works seem to focus heavily on themes of conquest and dominance, which usually indicates social stress. Would you like us to send some of our counselors and therapists to help? Counselors and therapists? Vorak repeated weakly. Mental health professionals, Admiral. People who help others work through emotional problems. We notice that many of your officers seem much happier after spending time with our people. We want to make sure all Ziridians have access to the same emotional support. Vorak closed the communication channel and buried his face in his hands. His economic warfare had not only failed, it had somehow convinced the humans that the Ziridian Empire needed therapy. His aide approached cautiously. Admiral, what are your orders? Vorak looked around his bridge. Half his crew were attending human workshops on emotional wellness. The other half were learning human cooking techniques during their off-duty hours. His weapons officer had started dating a human botanist. His communications officer had joined a human book club. Sir, the aide pressed gently, High Command is expecting your next progress report tomorrow. Vorak thought about explaining to his superiors that his conquest had turned into a cultural exchange program that was somehow improving Ziridian technology and offering free therapy to his entire species. Tell High Command the situation is developing, he said finally. Outside his window, human ships continued shuttling between Earth and his fleet, bringing gifts, food, art, and enough relentless kindness to completely destroy everything Vorak thought he knew about military strategy. He had one more idea. One final approach that would surely work. If humans were determined to be friendly, he would test the limits of that friendship by creating a crisis that would force them to choose sides. Admiral Vorak studied the intelligence reports spread across his desk. According to Ziridian research, humanity's greatest weakness was their inability to maintain unity during times of crisis. Humans were divided into hundreds of separate nations, dozens of religions, and countless competing political systems. They fought wars among themselves regularly. Their history was full of conflicts over resources, territory, and ideology. This would be his final strategy. He would create a crisis that forced humans to choose between helping his people and protecting their own interests. When their unity cracked, when they started fighting among themselves, he could finally complete his conquest during the chaos. Vorak activated his secure communication system and contacted his intelligence officer. Lieutenant Nex, I need you to stage an incident. What kind of incident, Admiral? Make it appear that the European Federation has attacked one of our medical facilities on Earth. Ensure there are Ziridian casualties. Make sure the evidence points clearly to European involvement. Lieutenant Nex hesitated. Sir, The Europeans have been providing free medical care to our injured personnel. Why would they attack us? They would not, Vorak replied. That is the point. When the other human nations see the evidence, they will turn against the Europeans. Human unity will collapse, and we can move in to restore order. It was a perfect plan. Humans might be annoyingly friendly as a group, but their individual loyalty to their separate nations would override their cooperation instincts. Vorak had seen it work on dozens of worlds. The false flag operation began at dawn, Earth time. A small explosion damaged the Zeridian medical facility in Berlin, injuring 12 Zeridian personnel. Forged communication intercepts suggested European military involvement. Planted evidence pointed to a European ultranationalist group that opposed alien contact. Vorak monitored global communications as news of the attack spread across Earth. He waited for the accusations to begin, for the diplomatic tensions to escalate, for human civilization to tear itself apart, as it always did when faced with crisis. Instead, something completely different happened. The first response came from the Pacific Alliance, traditionally Europe's rival in trade disputes. Instead of accusations, they immediately offered medical aid and investigative assistance to help find the real attackers. The African Union, which had been feuding with Europe over mining rights, sent emergency medical teams within 2 hours. The North American Federation, despite ongoing disagreements with Europe about space exploration policy, offered to share intelligence resources to track down the terrorists. Most shocking of all, the European Federation's response was not defensive anger, but genuine horror and determination to help the injured Zeridians. Vorak watched in disbelief as European President Elena Rodriguez addressed the world. We are devastated by this attack on our Zeridian friends. While we investigate how such a terrible thing could happen, our immediate priority is caring for the wounded and ensuring their families that Earth stands united in supporting them. Within 6 hours, human nations that barely spoke to each other were coordinating the largest international relief effort Vorak had ever witnessed. Medical teams from 37 countries worked together seamlessly. Intelligence agencies shared classified information freely. Military units coordinated security without a single jurisdictional dispute. The injured Zeridians received better care than they would have in the Empire's own hospitals. Admiral, his aide reported nervously, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Lieutenant Nex wants to confess the deception to the humans. He says he cannot watch them work so hard to help our people when he knows the attack was our fault. Vorak felt his carefully constructed plan beginning to collapse. Order him to maintain silence. That is a direct command. But it was too late. An hour later, Lieutenant Nex approached Dr. Chen during her shift, caring for injured Zeridians. Vorak watched helplessly on the security monitor as his intelligence officer broke down and confessed everything. Dr. Chen's reaction was not what Vorak expected. She listened quietly to Nex's confession, then patted his shoulder gently. We know, she said softly. We figured it out in the first hour. The evidence was a little too convenient, and the attack pattern did not match any known European capabilities. Nex stared at her. You knew it was fake? Of course. But people were hurt, so we helped anyway. You helped even though you knew we attacked our own people? Dr. Chen looked genuinely puzzled. Why would that change anything? Injured people need medical care, regardless of how they got injured. That is what doctors do. Vorak felt something fundamental crack in his worldview as he watched his intelligence officer break down crying in a human woman's arms. The security feed switched to show Ambassador Park addressing a gathering of world leaders. Vorak turned up the volume to hear what new disaster was about to befall his mission. My fellow leaders, Park was saying, it is clear that Admiral Vorak is under tremendous pressure from his superiors. His actions today suggest he is being forced to create conflicts where none need exist. I propose that we contact Zeridian High Command directly and offer to mediate whatever political difficulties the Admiral is facing. Vorak nearly choked. The humans wanted to help him with his career problems. Australian Prime Minister Sarah Thompson nodded thoughtfully. The Admiral's behavior has become increasingly erratic. He seems like a good person trapped in an impossible situation. What can we do to help him? Japanese Premier Hiroshi Tanaka raised his hand. Perhaps we could offer the Admiral political asylum if he is truly in danger from his own government. That is an interesting idea, Park replied. We could also offer to negotiate with Zeridian High Command on his behalf. Perhaps there is some way to resolve this situation without anyone losing face. Vorak collapsed into his command chair, overwhelmed by the absolute impossibility of his situation. He had created a false flag operation designed to destroy human unity, and instead of fighting among themselves, they were planning an intervention to help him deal with his personal problems. His communications officer approached hesitantly. Admiral, we are receiving a priority message from Earth's Global Council. They want to speak with you directly. Put it through, Vorak said weakly. Ambassador Park's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Vorak could see representatives from every major human nation and organization. Admiral Vorak, Park said gently, we want you to know that we understand the pressure you must be facing. Command structures can be very difficult, especially when you are trying to balance competing demands and expectations. United Nations Secretary-General Maria Santos stepped forward. Admiral, we have dealt with many similar situations in human politics. Sometimes leaders are forced to take actions they personally disagree with in order to satisfy their superiors or political constituencies. Chinese Premier Li Wei nodded sympathetically. We recognize the signs of someone caught between their personal values and institutional obligations. We have all been there. We have all been there. We have all been there, Park continued. Admiral, we want to help you find a solution that allows you to complete your mission successfully while also maintaining the friendship our peoples have built together. We believe there must be a way to satisfy both your high command and our mutual desire for peaceful cooperation. European President Rodriguez added, we have prepared a comprehensive report for your superiors documenting the successful cultural and technological exchange between our species. Perhaps this will help them understand that this mission has been a tremendous success, even if it has not followed traditional patterns. Vorak stared at the screen in complete bewilderment. The humans had figured out that he was under pressure from high command. They knew he had staged the false flag attack. They understood that he was desperately trying to complete a conquest that kept turning into a friendship festival. And instead of being angry or defensive, they wanted to help him succeed. We have also prepared character references for you, Admiral, Park continued. Every human who has worked with you has spoken highly of your leadership, your integrity, and your willingness to adapt to unexpected situations. If your superiors question your competence, we will be happy to provide testimonials supporting your excellent performance. Your excellent performance, Vorak repeated numbly. Of course. You have managed an incredibly complex first contact situation with wisdom and restraint. You have facilitated unprecedented cooperation between our species. You have shown remarkable leadership in adapting to circumstances far outside normal protocols. Any reasonable military command should recognize your achievements. Vorak closed his eyes and tried to process what he was hearing. The humans were offering to write positive performance reviews for the Admiral who had been trying to conquer them for 2 weeks. Admiral, his aide whispered urgently, High Command is requesting an immediate status report. They are threatening to send Supreme Admiral Xeris with a battle fleet if you do not provide satisfactory answers. Vorak opened his eyes and looked at Ambassador Park's concerned face on the screen. Admiral, Park said softly, whatever difficulties you are facing with your superiors, please remember that Earth considers you a friend. We will do everything in our power to help you through this crisis. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Keth Vorak began to understand the difference between strength and brutality, between leadership and dominance, between conquest and cooperation. Unfortunately, he was about to learn that Supreme Admiral Xeris did not share his newfound enlightenment. The arrival of Supreme Admiral Thane Xeris was announced by the appearance of the largest battle fleet in Xeridian history. 500 warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, their weapons already charging for battle. At their head was the Imperial flagship, a vessel so massive it had its own gravitational field. Admiral Vorak stood on his bridge, watching the approaching fleet with growing dread. Xeris was not known for his patience or his diplomatic skills. He was the Empire's most successful military commander, a man who had personally conquered more worlds than any other Xeridian in history. He was also completely ruthless. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the Imperial flagship. Supreme Admiral Xeris demands your immediate presence aboard his vessel." Vorak nodded grimly. "Prepare a shuttle, and send my personal effects to my family." Before he could leave, Ambassador Park appeared on his screen. The human looked worried. "Admiral Vorak, we have detected the arrival of additional Xeridian ships. Are these reinforcements for our cultural exchange program?" Despite his dire situation, Vorak almost smiled. Even faced with an obviously hostile fleet, the humans assumed the best possible intentions. "Ambassador," Vorak said carefully, "review my progress." Park's expression brightened. "How wonderful! We have been preparing a welcome celebration for any additional Xeridian visitors. We have gifts ready for the Supreme Admiral and his crew. When would be convenient for them to join our ongoing friendship festival?" "Ambassador," Vorak said quietly, "I do not think Supreme Admiral Xeris is interested in festivals. Everyone likes festivals, Admiral. We just need to find the right approach." Before Vorak could explain why this was a terrible idea, his communications officer interrupted. "Sir, the Supreme Admiral is demanding your immediate surrender and threatening to fire on Earth if you do not comply within 1 hour." Park overheard the report. "Oh dear. It sounds like the Supreme Admiral is having a stressful day. We should probably send him some of Sarah's cookies and maybe some calming tea." Vorak stared at the human diplomat. "Ambassador, Supreme Admiral Xeris has come here to complete the conquest I have failed to achieve. He will not be interested in cookies." "We will see about that," Park replied with determination. Within minutes, human ships began broadcasting welcome messages to the arriving fleet. Children's choirs sang greeting songs. Artists displayed banners reading, "Welcome Supreme Admiral Xeris," in dozens of languages. The Global Culinary Council prepared a feast featuring dishes from every human culture. Xeris responded by powering up every weapon in his fleet and broadcasting a final ultimatum to Earth. Vorak arrived aboard the Imperial flagship to find Xeris pacing the bridge in barely contained fury. The Supreme Admiral was an imposing figure, tall even by Xeridian standards, with ceremonial scars covering his arms and face. His uniform displayed medals from hundreds of successful conquests. "Admiral Vorak," Xeris growled, "explain to me why this pathetic planet has not surrendered." "Supreme Admiral, the situation is more complex than our initial intelligence suggested." "Complex?" Xeris's voice rose dangerously. "You have had 2 weeks to subdue a single planet with primitive technology. What could possibly be complex about that?" Before Vorak could answer, the flagship's communications system activated. A cheerful human voice filled the bridge. "Supreme Admiral Xeris, welcome to Earth. I am Ambassador Minjun Park, and we are absolutely delighted to meet you. We have prepared a magnificent welcome celebration for you and your crew. We have food, music, gifts, and cultural presentations. Our children have made special drawings just for you." Xeris stared at the communications panel as if it had personally insulted his ancestors. "Are they mocking me?" "No, sir," Vorak replied wearily. "They are genuinely happy to meet you. Happy to meet the fleet that is about to destroy their world? They do not seem to understand that concept. Sir, More transmissions flooded in from Earth. Scientists invited Zeridian researchers to collaborate on projects. Musicians offered to perform Zeridian folk songs. Chefs asked about Zeridian dietary restrictions to ensure everyone could enjoy the welcome feast. A small human child appeared on the screen, holding up a drawing of Xeris's flagship surrounded by hearts and flowers. "Hello, Supreme Admiral? I drew your spaceship. Do you like purple? I used lots of purple because it is my favorite color." Xeris looked at the drawing in stunned silence. No one had ever drawn his flagship surrounded by hearts before. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "we are ready to commence bombardment on your command." Xeris raised his hand to give the order, then paused as another transmission came through. "Supreme Admiral," a human doctor was saying, "we have been monitoring your fleet's biosignatures, and we noticed some concerning health indicators among your crew. Long space voyages can be very stressful. We have prepared medical care packages for anyone who needs them, including medications for anxiety and depression." "They think my crew needs therapy?" Xeris asked in disbelief. "Yes, sir," Vorak confirmed. "They have been offering mental health services to my people for weeks. Apparently, our cultural focus on conquest indicates social trauma, in their opinion." A human therapist appeared on the screen. "Supreme Admiral, we understand that military command can be very stressful. The pressure to succeed, the weight of responsibility, the fear of letting down your people, these are heavy burdens. We want you to know that it is okay to ask for help. Seeking emotional support is a sign of wisdom, not weakness." Xeris's eye began to twitch. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "something is wrong with our weapons systems." "What kind of wrong?" "They are not responding to firing commands, sir. The crew is reporting equipment malfunctions across the entire fleet." Vorak felt a cold suspicion growing in his mind. "Check the personnel roster. How many of our people have been attending human workshops and cultural events?" The tactical officer consulted his display. "According to these reports, approximately 68% of the fleet." "Sir, check the weapons crews specifically." "The weapons crews have been attending human conflict resolution seminars, sir. Also, cooking classes and art therapy sessions." Xeris turned slowly to face Vorak. "Are you telling me that my weapons crews have been brainwashed by human art therapy?" "Not brainwashed, sir. They just like the humans now." At that moment, the bridge doors opened, and a group of Zeridian officers entered, carrying platters of human food, and looking happier than Vorak had ever seen them. "Supreme Admiral," the lead officer said cheerfully, "the humans sent welcome gifts for you, fresh cookies, something called pizza, and this amazing beverage they call hot chocolate. They also sent an invitation to attend a concert tonight featuring music from both our cultures." Xeris stared at his officers as they set the food on his command table. The cookies were still warm and smelled incredible. "Also," the officer continued, "the humans wanted me to give you this personal message." He handed Xeris a handwritten note. The Supreme Admiral read it aloud. "Dear Supreme Admiral Xeris, we know you must be very tired from your long journey. We have prepared comfortable quarters for you and your crew. We understand that being in command is difficult and stressful. Please know that you are welcome here, as a friend. We look forward to learning about your culture and sharing ours with you. With warm regards, the children of Earth Elementary School, Room 7. The note was decorated with crayon drawings of spaceships and stick figures holding hands. Xeris looked around his bridge. Half his officers were eating human food. The other half were reading welcome messages from human schools. His weapons crews were attending therapy sessions. His tactical displays were showing cultural exchange schedules instead of target coordinates. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from Zeridian High Command. They want to know why our military technology has suddenly become 40% more efficient." "What?" "The humans have been sharing their equipment improvements with our home fleet, sir. They sent detailed specifications for safety protocols and efficiency upgrades. The Ministry of Defense wants to implement the modifications on all Imperial vessels immediately. Xerus sat down heavily in his command chair. The humans are improving our military technology? They said they wanted to help make space travel safer for everyone, sir. They are helping us build better weapons to conquer them with? They do not seem to understand that concept, sir. They keep treating our weapons as if they were tools for peaceful purposes. Ambassador Park's face appeared on the screen again. Supreme Admiral, we have been thinking about your situation. It must be very difficult to be responsible for so many people and so many ships. Leadership is a heavy burden. We want you to know that Earth's leaders are here to support you in any way we can. Support me? Of course, leading a large organization is challenging. We have management consultants, strategic planners, and leadership coaches who would be happy to help you develop more effective command strategies. We believe that good leadership should reduce stress for everyone involved. They want to teach me how to be a better Supreme Admiral? Xerus asked weakly. They also prepared a gift basket for you, Park continued. It contains stress relief items, some books about effective leadership, and homemade cookies from every human nation. The children were very excited to contribute. Xerus looked at Vorak. Admiral, how do I conquer a species that keeps trying to help me improve my job performance? Vorak had no answer. He was too busy wondering how humans had managed to turn the most powerful military fleet in galactic history into a cultural exchange program in under 6 hours. Sir, the tactical officer reported quietly, most of our crew is requesting extended shore leave on Earth. They want to attend more workshops and festivals. Sir, added the communications officer, the humans are asking if we would like to help them make contact with other species in the galaxy. They want us to help them establish friendly relations with our neighbors. Sir, his aide whispered, what are your orders? Supreme Admiral Thane Xerus, conqueror of 200 worlds, looked around his bridge at officers who were sharing cookies with their supposed enemies and making plans to attend human art classes. For the first time in his military career, he had absolutely no idea what to do next. 3 hours later, the most feared military commander in Xeridian history found himself sitting in a circle on the floor with a group of human kindergarten students, learning about feelings and friendship while eating homemade cookies. The Xeridian Empire's age of conquest was quietly coming to an end, one therapy session at a time.